Hey mamas, welcome to week 5 of Heroic Mama in Training program. My name is Claire and it is an honor to be here with all of you. This week I'm excited to be kicking off a new module series called Hero-ology, the study of a good hero and how to cultivate anti-fragile confidence, heroic courage, and response ability. This is going to be a 3-part module. The first part today will be theory, 10 big ideas on the theory of how to be a good hero, and the second 2 modules are going to be deep dive into taking theory into practice. I'm excited to jump in today. Before we get started, let's begin with a short breeze meditation to ground ourselves in and bring us here to this present moment together. As you feel comfortable and are able, I invite you to close your eyes. Taking a deep breath in through our nose, down deep into our belly. Exhaling, releasing fully, shaking out any tension, any lingering ickiness. Inhaling again, deep into our belly, connecting into the energy of our breath. And exhaling, allowing that energy to course from our lungs out through our whole body. Inhaling in, imagining a string tugging us tall from the top of our head, pulling us into alignment. And exhaling, dropping from our head into our hero's heart, welcoming our hero to this moment. Inhaling, allowing our heroic heart to guide us to our eudaimon, our good soul. Exhaling, smile with gratitude for this moment and our time together. We'll open our eyes and jump right in. We have 10 big ideas to talk about today. Tons of good stuff. I'm going to do my best to stick to our 30 minutes. So big idea number 1 is to know the rules of the game we are playing. In our last module, we talked about the number 1 game we play is the game of life, eudaimonia via arete, that we are playing the game of human flourishing via living our virtues in action. And when we choose to play that game and engage in that game as a hero, what is the number 1 rule of the game? And the number 1 rule for a hero is to expect challenges and obstacles to come up. The Epictetus wrote a piece called Discourses. He was a Stoic philosopher way back in the day, 55 to 135 AD approximately. And in his Discourses he writes that the true man is revealed in difficult times. So when trouble comes, think of yourself as a wrestler whom God, like a trainer, has paired with a tough young buck. For what purpose? To turn you into an Olympic class material. But this is going to take some sweat to accomplish. From my perspective, no one's difficulties ever gave him a better test than yours. If you are prepared to make use of them the way a wrestler makes use of an opponent in peak condition. The number 1 thing that we can use as a hero is that the obstacles that are placed in front of us are there to serve us. They are there to challenge us to rise up to our peak condition and to fully tap into our potential that would be unknown without those challenges. The true man or woman is revealed in the difficult times. It's in those difficult times that we need to ask ourselves, how bad do I want it? How bad do I want to be the hero of the story? And to realize that these obstacles are normal, and to not only normalize them, but expect to encounter them on our path. William B. Irvine, who's a professor of philosophy and the author of the Stoic Challenge, tells us that every challenge presents an opportunity to practice. That it's not a sign that we're doing something wrong. It's simply an opportunity to engage once again in what we are doing here now, to put those virtues into action, And through these challenges and living our virtues in action, we achieve eudaimonia. And Phil Stutz, who's the author of The Tools and Coming Alive, says that we should expect to never be exonerated. That the number one cause of suffering in this world is this expectation that we'll get to a place where we shouldn't have challenges presented to us, that we shouldn't be experiencing any difficulties, that we have this expectation that there's a life of ease beyond. So we are willing to do the work for a certain amount of time with the expectation that we'll sometime get to a place where there is no more challenges. But challenges will always arise, and that we in fact can use them as a reverse indicator to know that we are on our hero's journey. That the hero's journey, number one rule, is that there are obstacles. And Ray Dalio tells us that the point of life is to evolve, and that there are 5 key steps to this process of evolution. The first is to set a goal. Wish, dream, set a vision. The second is to face problems. When we push ourselves and stretch ourselves outside of our comfort zones, we will encounter problems. So the third step is to diagnose the problems. What do I need to learn from this? What skills do I need to develop in order to be able to handle this problem? Which leads us to the fourth step, is to design a solution. And then the fifth step is to take action. The hero's path is a path of action. It is not a theory that we are warriors of the mind. We're not librarians of the mind. We are warriors of the mind. And so we are called to be in action, in pursuit of those goals, every single day. And we have one more quote from Epictetus's discourses, and he said, "Who is Hercules without challenges?" What would have become of Hercules, do you think, if there had been no lion, no hydra, stag or boar, and no savage criminals to rid the world of? What would he have done in the absence of such challenges? Obviously, he would have just rolled over in bed and gone back to sleep. So by snoring his life away in luxury and comfort, he would have never developed into the mighty Hercules. And even if he had, what good would it have done him? What would have been the use of those arms, that physique, that noble soul, without crises or conditions to stir him into action? These challenges that we face are here to serve us, but also to be of service to ourselves, to tap into our potential and to actualize it in service of something greater than ourselves. This leads us to our big idea number 2, anti-fragile. We talked about this a bit in our last module, but this time we want to take it to the next level. So this comes from Nassim Taleb's work in Antifragile, and one of the metaphors that makes it easy to think this is the old Chinese proverb of, we fall 7 times, rise 8. And that is awesome. But as a hero, what we're really called is to fall 7 times and rise 8 stronger. That each time we are challenged, we not only survive the challenge, but we thrive within it, and we develop capabilities that we didn't have before we faced that challenge. So our goal is to become heroically anti-fragile. That they have fragile, just hold on 1 second. Let me get the dog. Marshall, Millie. Obstacles make us stronger. Working from home challenges. Okay. So, anti-fragility. We begin with fragile, and that is where we are brittle and we break easily. If something doesn't go the way that we planned it to go, we break. Things are getting exciting out there. Beyond fragile, we have resiliency. And this is where we're a little bit tough. We kind of got some flexibility. We've got a plan A, and then we have a plan B, maybe plan C, but we have a limit. Once we reach that limit, we break. Beyond resiliency, we have antifragility. And this is where we grow stronger from our challenges. And it's within that antifragility that we say thank you. We have this practice of radical gratitude, of knowing that whatever challenges are coming into our lives, we have this aspect of gratefulness for them. Gratefulness that they are there, serving a purpose to bring our spirit to its fullest actualization. We have the hero's mantra to serve us as we face these challenges. Ohms. Obstacles make me stronger. And if we're being really challenged, we have ohms. Put a silent L there after the O. Obstacles literally make me stronger. When we go to the gym, we don't go to lift styrofoam weights. We're there to lift heavy weights, a little bit heavier than the week before, challenging ourselves to grow our bodies stronger. Our spirit needs exactly the same thing. Day after day, week after week, challenging ourselves to face obstacles that before were too much for us. In Ryan Holiday's book, The Obstacle is the Way, he shares the metaphor of the wind, and that the wind itself is a neutral force, but it extinguishes a candle and it fuels a fire. So these obstacles that come into our path, they are themselves neutral. It is the story that we give to them, the power that we give to them, that dictates whether they extinguish our candle or fuel our fire. It's a choice that we get to make. What story are we going to tell ourselves? Big idea number 3 is confidence. Confidence comes from 2 Latin words, confidere, which literally translates to intense trust. What are we going to have intense trust in? A hero has intense trust in themselves. They know that whatever comes up, they are going to be able to handle it. They are going to be able to learn from it. They know that nothing is there that they are not capable of handling. They have intense trust within their own soul. David Reynolds, I looked up a little bit about David Reynolds and now I forgot. David Reynolds is a British historian and he's a professor of international history at Cambridge. And he tells us that a person with confidence is the type of person who's able to get things done, whether they feel like it or not. To be able to have confidence and trust in yourself, that whether the kids were up all night or sleeping or not sleeping, and these challenges arise when COVID-19 hits our homes, we have the inner trust within ourselves that we are going to do what needs to get done, whether we really feel like it or not. Having that ability cultivates a deep trust within ourselves. When we cultivate that practice with these little, tiny, micro-moment decisions, when the big things hit, like COVID-19, we have this grounded sense of confidence within ourselves. We're not being reckless or stupid, but we are just grounded in a way that we may not see mirrored out in our society. And we must know that trust is earned. We don't just wake up one day and say, I am a trustworthy person, or, oh, I have this confidence within myself now. It happens one decision at a time, one moment at a time. That you can't fake this. You don't fake it until you make it. You just do it until you become it. And then it is a part of who you are. And you have this heroic, anti-fragile confidence within yourself. Our big idea number 4 is heroic courage. A hero is a protector at the root. They are an individual with a strength for 2, whose greatest weapon they wield is love. It is you doing the hard work. It's leading from your heart in the moments of the greatest challenges. The hero is called on to the hero's journey. And there are 3 main stages to a hero's journey. The first is that you have the courage to leave the known world, that you leave behind the world as you know it, and you enter the forest at the darkest point, when you have the least amount of clarity, and the only thing compelling you is your soul and your heart. The second stage is where we battle dragons. We're not sidestepping lizards here. We're slaying tough, scaled, fire-breathing dragons. It requires humongous amounts of courage to engage in that battle again and again and again until the dragon is slayed. And the third step is that you win the battle. You become the hero, the victorious hero, and you bring the gifts back to the world. You bring them back in service to something greater than yourself. And Paulo Coelho tells us that you wear your scars like medals. That we're not doing this work for the Instagram selfie, for the six-pack sexiness. It's battle. We're fighting a battle, and we're going to get scarred, and it's going to be messy, and we wear that mud and blood and sweat and tears with pride, because we know that we are there engaging in this battle so that we can give our gifts in greatest service to something beyond ourselves. How do we continue to show up? How do we continue to face those dragons? And that leads us to big idea number 5, courage. Courage is Aristotle's number 1 virtue. It is the virtue that vitalizes all other virtues. We can think of it as our heart, that courage comes from the Latin word cor, which means our heart. And just as our heart pumps blood that vitalizes all of our other organs, that allows them to thrive, so too does courage vitalize all the other virtues that we are called to embody. And virtue exists between the vice of deficiency and the vice of excess. So when we're deficient in courage, we are led by fear. We are making decisions from our fear voice. And that's not a good place to be. That will not lead us back into the battle to slay that dragon. But we can also be excessive in courage, and that is where we lead into being stupid or reckless, where we rush into the battle without assessing the situation, the field, the foe that we will be engaging with. So heroic courage is feeling the fear and doing it anyway. It's not about eliminating the fear completely and going only to courage. But we need a healthy dose of fear in order to keep us aware, in order to keep us alert and learning about our environment and the obstacles that we're facing. And David Reynolds again tells us in another amazing quote that anyone who tells you that they are never afraid is both stupid and lying. And this is coming from a very conservative British historian. Anyone who tells you that they are never afraid is both stupid and lying. Fear is natural. As a hero, we don't want to eradicate our fear, but neither do we want it to be our deciding factor in how we move through our days. We want to be driven by the heartbeat of a hero, and the heartbeat of a hero beats to love. Big idea number 6, responsibility. In English, we combine this to responsibility, but we're going to split it up into 2, response-ability. So in every encounter that we have, every moment, we have a stimulus and we have a response. And in between the stimulus and response lies a gap. And Viktor Frankl tells us that it is in this gap that our true freedom resides. That in this gap we have the ability to choose what our response will be. That we don't have to react automatically. And we have the power to make a decision different than our fear-based reactions. This is the gap in which we can begin to control our impulsive thinking. Whether that's the reaching for a drink or the sweet or getting defensive or leading from fear, allowing fear to dictate us. That in order to change how we respond, we must take control of this gap. We do this in several different ways that we're going to cover throughout these next 3 modules. But the first way is our big idea number 7, is to make a choice. Victim or hero? The victim says they are powerless. It says, I don't have the ability to control it. I don't have ability to control anything. I just am here. A hero says, I am a powerful being. I don't control everything, but I do control one thing. The one thing that I control is my responses. And this decision isn't a one and done. You just don't say that one time and you are forever just a hero and never a victim. That this is a recommitment that we make to ourselves again and again and again. It is a constant and ever-evolving process. And in this moment, when we have that split decision, what is the decision that we're making as a hero? The hero's decision is, am I going to step forward into growth and to respond from my heart, or am I going to lean back into safety and to respond from my head and from fear? So how do we go about doing that? How do we make that decision from our heart rather than from our head? Big idea number 8 is flip the switch. This is the practice that allows us to take a moment to cultivate our ability to tame our mind for that minute so that we have space in that gap to decide something different. The first step that we do is we ground our body. The breath is always going to be our connection to our highest self. And one of the most beautiful things is that our breath is always there. At any moment, we can decide to tap back in with one deep grounding breath, like we start every session with. Breathing in through our nose, down deep into our belly, holding it in, and then exhaling it back out through our nose. Slowly and surely allows us to switch from their parasympathetic fight or flight to our sympathetic rest and digest system, which allows us to re-engage our mind and consciously be able to make a decision to step forward into growth. And when we make that decision to step forward into growth, we are greeting our heroic self. We can even imagine in our head taking that deep breath in and imagining our hero self coming into our presence, and we say, hello, hero me. What should I do here? And allowing the heroic version of you to guide you. So we have 4 key practices to cultivate that heroic presence and allow us to tap into their knowledge that is always right here inside of us. And the first is the hero's presence. When you see a hero and when you greet your heroic self, they're not hunched over. They're not, oh, I don't know what you should do. Like, a hero has a strong, energetic presence that inspires you just by looking at them. So a hero, this presence is strong. We're standing up, our shoulders are back. We're breathing deep into our belly through our nose. We're exhaling slightly longer. And knowing that our feelings follow our behaviors just as much as our behaviors follow our feelings. So if we want to feel heroic, let's act heroic. And we first act heroic by the presence that we bring to our days. The second way that we can tap into our hero self is through a heroic mantra. A mantra is literally a tool of the mind and allows us to train our mind to focus in and to cultivate our attention on a certain thing. So where does our mind go when we face a challenge? The monkey mind and the fear-based mind is always there, and it's ready to just sweep us away into paralyzing fear and anxiety. So we need to be strong and cultivate our mind through these mantras to lead from our heart and not from our head. Mantras such as bring it on, ohms, obstacles make me stronger, versus make it go away, please stop, can't handle this, maybe later come back, is the victim voice, is the fear voice. The hero's voice is saying, yes, bring it on. I know that this is here to serve me. My coach Brian has this mantra, I love pain. Pain sets me free. And this also can be a really great metaphor for the gym, when we have a set of 20 and we just push through, knowing that at the end of it, we're going to be stronger for having pushed ourselves through. Same things with our mind. This is incredibly comfortable where we're at, but our infinite potential lies on the other side of our comfort zones. Ohms, obstacles make me stronger. Use heroic mantras to train our minds to push us through the comfort zone and actualize our infinite potential. Our third key practice is the hero's prayer. You may also have heard of this as the serenity prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Ultimately, the only thing that we have within our control is our responses to the challenges that we face. Knowing this, having the wisdom that this is where our control lies, allows us to release all else that's outside of us, to send it blessings, to wish it well, and then to come back and cultivate our self-mastery as we close that gap and actualize our potential. And our fourth practice is the hero's question. When we have a challenge that's facing us, we can ask ourselves this question to re-ground us into our purpose here as a hero. And the question that we can ask ourselves is, what's the best possible response right now? What would my heroic self do here? Take that moment to cultivate that present, to run that mantra through our mind, to say that prayer, and then ask this question. And then once that question is answered, put it into action. Be the hero of your story today. Our big idea number 9 is heroic stamina. This could also be called emotional stamina. This may be the most important part of our work together. In order to be able to do any of these practices, in order to become the hero of our life story and close that gap between who we are capable of being and who we are actually being, we need to have a strong foundation from which we are living from. Emotional stamina can be defined as the worse that you feel, the more committed you are to your protocol. And your protocol is the habits that you engage in that keep you plugged in, that keep you full of energy. These are our fundamentals: our eating, our moving, our sleeping, our meditating, our breathing, and our prospering. One of the key foundations of heroic training is that our physiology drives our psychology. That oftentimes the way that we feel in our bodies actually limits our ability to think as powerfully and as courageously as we are capable of. And knowing that we are the type of person who continues to show up and do the work, the worse we feel, the greater that we're challenged, the deeper that we dig our foundations, build an intense level of trust within ourselves, that we are the kind of person who shows up and does what needs to get done, no matter what else is going on in this world. Knowing that that is how we cultivate the strength for two and become the hero of our own life story, is through these micro decisions throughout our days. So what do we want to do? When we are challenged, we want to put in the practice of flip the switch, to work our protocols, and to step back and evaluate with a clear mind where our next most important action needs to be, to dig our foundation to a deeper level so that we can build the skyscraper as high as we need it to go. The number one virtue most correlated with successful people, according to modern scientists, is what they call zest. And we can translate zest as energy. So our protocol is what allows us to tap into and activate all of the energy that's potential within us and to become our most energetic presence. Stamina via our protocols. And a little PS aside here at the end, that it's really easy to get shot out of a cannon and experience a moment of enlightenment and glory at the top of a peak. And then this might be like a weekend event or a seminar. Maybe it's watching a video on YouTube like this one, and you're like, yeah, hoorah, I'm gonna get fired up. I'm gonna clean out my entire pantry and only eat this, and I'm never gonna eat sugar again, and make these huge sweeping decisions. And then within a few weeks we hit that peak, and then we fall back to where we were before, or many times lower than we were before. We swing that pendulum back a little bit further than we were even before we began. So that's not our intention here with this practice. And beginning after Hero-ology, we are going to spend 2 whole months developing our protocol, leaning deeply into that, so that instead of shooting us out of a cannon, we are going to build scaffolding, slowly and surely architecting the structures that we need to build on each other to take us to success, so that this is just an integral part of who we are. It's not a weekend fascination. It's not a new fad diet that we're going to fall off of. We're not doing it to lose 30 pounds in 30 days. This is going to be a long, intensive, immersive process into discovering what is your unique protocol and how do you implement that to become the best version of you that you can become. So I don't want you to be worried if you don't know what a protocol is or have one established, or you're feeling overwhelmed by that. We're going to go slow, we're going to go steady, and we're going to make sure that all of us feel like our best selves at the end of that. And all of this leads us to big idea number 5, the hero sandwich. I want us to really use this time as kind of an interactive practice and bring into our heads, into our minds, what is the number one obstacle that you are facing in your life today? And so we're going to envision that the obstacle is the meat of the sandwich, or hummus if you are a veggie lover. That it's a necessary part of the sandwich, that nobody goes out and just, can I just have a bread sandwich? Nothing on it, just 2 slices of bread. Thank you very much. No, we want some filling, we want some yumminess. The obstacle is that yumminess. It's an essential part of the process. And without it, it's a tasteless, blawless blech that no one wants to see, that no one wants to eat. And our 2 pieces of bread are wisdom on the top and self-mastery on the bottom. The wisdom piece is to remember the game we are playing and how to play that game well. We are playing the game of eudaimonia via arete, and we are choosing to engage in that game as the hero who expects obstacles and challenges. And the self-mastery is the bottom piece of bread. And the self-mastery is the ability to practice these tools that are needed to engage in the game that we are playing. That we don't just read these things and listen to them and say, oh, that's interesting, or yeah, I should do that. No, self-mastery is coming and bringing these tools into our own lives, integrating them into our own unique personality, and then actualizing them day in and day out. So we have wisdom on top, the obstacle in the middle, and self-mastery as the foundation of our sandwich. And our add-ons are lettuce and tomatoes and pickles and all that good stuff are unique to each of us. These are the results of our VIA character assessment, where we received our top 5 character virtues. These are the things that make your sandwich and your hero's story different than anybody else's. Your unique blend of wisdom and self-mastery, sandwiching your unique virtues, your top 5 virtues, and all of that together allows you to face the obstacle that you are sandwiching in between all of that goodness. And so that is Hero-ology Part 1. The study of a good hero, how to cultivate anti-fragile confidence, heroic courage, and responsibility. Thank you all for being here. I am sending love, sending healing, and sending virtual soul hugs to all of you. I will see you all next week.